Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Alhamdulillah, we would like to welcome all of you all to our program. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, rabbil alamin. Walakibatul muttaqin wassalatu wassalamu ala man kana nabiyya wal adamu bainal ma'i wa tin. Alhamdulillah. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala under all conditions, and we send darud and salam upon our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We'd like to welcome all of you all to our program that is Let's Talk. That is Let's Talk Islam. And our program tonight inshallah is fire prevention and safety. And the reason why we have chosen this topic, this is something that is very important for all of us, right? For all, you could say, every situation in life, prevention and safety measures, it is something that is praiseworthy. We should always have this type of knowledge, inshallah. You know, your Rasul Sallallahu has taught us one beautiful hadith where he has said, La akalaka ta'bir, that there is no true intelligence like good planning. Again, he said there is no true intelligence like good planning. So as you know, as human beings living, we should always have good plans. Anything should happen, we should always have a plan how to counteract. For example, if there should be a fire, or there should be an earthquake, or any type of harm that should come to us, inshallah. And you know, one of the reasons also, our main intention why we have decided to do this topic, because recently we know of that fire, that outbreak wherein 3 children died in Marvel. You know, that is, you know, reading the news about that was something very sad. You know, the news that was reported, that doubles vendor, I'm sure you all read it. You know, he said for 3 days and for days he couldn't sleep at night peacefully. All he kept hearing was the scream, and you know, the loud screams of those children who were trapped and they were dying. You know, may Allah protect us and our children, inshallah. So as believers, we should always have this type of knowledge. And when we look at the hadith on an Islamic point of view, there is a beautiful hadith wherein that the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he said, before you sleep at night, number one, you should secure the door. You should secure the water skin. You should turn down the utensils. And also you should out the lamp or the wick. And of course, the reason why, because of prevention. So he wants us to take that prevention and also to secure ourselves. Nowadays, we don't have lamps. Well, most part in Trinidad like before, but you know, we have lights. We still living in a home, you know, wherein there could be an outbreak of a fire. And you know, that is why I want to ask you all a question. Many of us, we are in our homes. Yes, we are comfortable. We are in our homes. We are comfortable. But the question is, are we safe? Are we secure? You know, if there should be a fire or there should be an earthquake or any type of harm, are we secure? So seeking these type of knowledge, inshallah, would help us, inshallah. Before we go further, inshallah, I would just like to introduce to you all. Well, we have with us tonight, we have Fazad Mohammed. He is still a member. He is a member of the TNT Coast Guard for the past 19 years. He is a medic, right? And he is also the CEO or the manager of Alpha, right? That is Apply Learning First Aid. And mashallah, he does his job very well. In fact, I was a student of his studying a bit of first aid. So Fazad, inshallah, he will be conducting this live interview on behalf of Al-Ikram Foundation. Fazad might be a stranger to some of us, but not to all of us. He has been, what can I say, in our terms, a man behind the scene, right? Today, inshallah, we are seeing him. He's popping up, inshallah, live with us. Like, for example, our Tobago event for the past 2-3 years ago, he have been helping us in managing, in planning. So we'll ask him to conduct this live interview on our behalf tonight, inshallah. Before I go, I just want to introduce to you also our guests, right? So our guest tonight is Mr. Neil Lewis, right? Mr. Neil Lewis, I would like to welcome you all to our program, right? Mr. Neil Lewis, he is a graduate member of the Institute of Fire Engineers, and alhamdulillah, he have 15 years experience in fire prevention, safety, emergency response in all departments, for example, commercial, residential, industrial, marine, and also he has also other training like fire investigation, incident command, crime scene investigation. So alhamdulillah, we have, as you know, very competent person on our live interview, right? We also like to welcome Mr. Cox, right? Welcome to our program tonight, inshallah. So I would like to hand you all over to Mr. Fazad Mohammed. Fazad.
Jazakallah Maulana. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Good night, Mr. Lewis, Mr. Cox. How are you all doing tonight?
Good night. Fine, thanks.
Good. I was a little glad to hear we have a fire officer in the midst too, along with the safety consultant. That is actually a very good thing for this interview tonight.
Nice.
Guys, yeah, so we actually get a safety perspective, and we have a fire service perspective now too, because I know sometimes two might coincide and then two might clash. Sometimes that does happen. Yes. So very good. I'm glad to see this tonight. As Masood mentioned, he spoke about the unfortunate incident in Marava a little while back. I think that is something that opened person's eyes, right? That because of the incident, because it involved children. But I'm sure Mr. Cox and in the fire service, you see that kind of thing every day. Us, the general public, wouldn't see that every day. Because this was publicized. I think we became more aware of it. So I'm sure people started to look around the household now in their own home to see what could happen. And yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I don't know. Okay, what could you all say in the household? What contributes or what can contribute to a fire? And also, we may be thinking along one lines. Also, are there different types of fires?
Yeah. So good night again. So I just want to take your question in two parts, right? So the first question asks what could have contributed to a fire?
Yeah.
Right? So for any fire to occur, we must have three things present that must come together. Right? These three things is, we call it fuel, we call it heat, and we call it oxygen. And a lot of us probably hear about the fire triangle before. These three things are represented in the fire triangle. And long as these three things come together in the right proportions, we're going to have a fire. So we asking ourselves, this man talking about fuel, heat, oxygen, what is them thing that man talking about, right? So just to give a little example, what is oxygen? Well, we have oxygen all around us in the air. About 21% of the air that we breathe is oxygen. So the oxygen is always there. So we always have the oxygen component to actually start a fire. And what is fuel? Fuel is anything that is capable of burning. So when we look around our households, we see a lot of different fuels around. So could your couch burn? I'd say yes. Could your curtain burn? Yes. Could paper burn? Could the LPG burn? So in our households, there are a lot of fuels also around us. And then we have heat. Heat is whatever would raise the temperature of the fuels that we talked about earlier to actually start to burn. And when we look around the home, there are many forms of heat. You have your light bulbs, you have electricity, we have open flames, persons who smoke, we have smoking materials, and all these things in our homes. So in order to actually prevent a fire from happening, we have all these things in our homes coexisting. What we need to do is actually prevent. We can't prevent the oxygen, but we really need to stop the heat and the fuel from coming together with each other. Right? Just review the second part of your question.
Are there different types of fires?
Yes. So all fires is not the same, right? And we have different classes of fires. And the classes of fires is dependent on, earlier we talked about the fuel, on what is the fuel that is burning. So we'll talk about the gas, we'll talk about wood, paper, plastic. And we have 5 different categories of fires, right? So normally people might be hearing 5 categories. Ooh, what is this man talking about? So let me just take a little look at the 5 different categories briefly. So that we have class A fires, right? So your class A fires, you might also hear people talk about ordinary fires. These are most of the everyday materials you have in your home, such as wood, paper, plastic, rubber, these type of materials. And a nice way to think about what is a class A fire is thinking about if it was to burn, you will get ashes out of it, right? So those are our class A fires. We also have class B fires, right? So your class B fires is what we call liquids that is capable of burning. So if it is in a liquid form and it is capable of burning, we consider that a class B fire. So we're thinking things like paint, you can even look at things like alcohols, diesel, kerosene, gasoline, all these things will be considered class B fires. And we have class C. So class C is really anything electrical and it is energized with electricity and it is on fire, we consider that a class C fire. We have class D, these are metals that are capable of burning. So things like your lithium, your potassium, your sodium, and all the fancy we hear about, these are actually reactive metals that are capable of burning. And then last but not least, we have class K, right? And these are really fires that involves frying, deep fat frying, and oils and fats and butters and these type of stuff. So these are your different classes of fires that we could have.
Wow. So you mean to say, if I have a class A fire and I try to out that with water, that might not work for the rest of them?
Not necessarily, right? So I'll give you a classic example. So we identify A, B, C, D, and K, right? So let me just look at the classic example of a class K fire, which is, let me say, you're doing some deep fat frying and you get a flare up in the kitchen. Now, if we was to take water and actually throw water, because that is the natural human instinct, but any fire is to throw water. If you are actually to take that water and throw it inside the hot oil, it's going to cause a reaction. It's actually going to flare up. I'll show some of the audience tonight may have watched videos on YouTube. We actually see it flare up and it boil over and the fire spread across the stove and all these kind of things. So, no. Depending on the class of the fire will determine the way you should attempt to extinguish the fire and what is the medium you should be trying to use to extinguish the fire.
Right. So you see, and that is something people don't think about.
No.
Right. Yeah. So so in that case now, so what should somebody do if they have a fire in their home? Does it depend on the area of the house or is it something in general?
You mean in terms of extinguishment or general procedures?
Extinguish.
Yeah, it depends on what is burning. So first thing we advise, because I kind of want to tie 2 things into one here, because the extinguishing part should actually be one of the least important things to do if you have a fire in your home. There are some other steps, critical steps that need to take place before we even consider that, right? But just to answer the question directly, because I feel that question coming a little later, right? Right? Just to answer your question directly, no. So let me say, let me use the kitchen for example. We're going back to the kitchen because I like the kitchen because the kitchen is a high hazard area. We're using gas, we have open flames, we have that nice unique combination of the fire triangle, so it's a high probability we can have a fire in the kitchen, right? So let me say I have that pan fire we talk about. So let us look at extinguishers. It have a special extinguishers for that. However, you'll more see that in like a commercial setting. What we advise that somebody could do in their home, right? That's something that is affordable, that might be even free, is simply take a cover and cover the pot with the oil. Remember earlier we talked about the fire triangle, fuel, heat, oxygen, right? So we have the heat, we have the fuel in the pot, but if we was to take the cover and cover the pot, we actually removing the oxygen from the fire triangle, and the fire would subsequently go out, right? So once the fire go out on the stove top, you turn off the gas by the regulator, and you take off the gas by the gas head itself, and it should go out for itself. For persons who could afford these special extinguishers, they are wet chemical fire extinguishers, and they are specifically designed for the kitchen itself. Right? In the bedroom, or let me say in the living room, we have a lot of class A materials. The water type extinguisher would be an effective extinguisher on those type of fires. But if you want to take away some of the guesswork, we have a type of extinguisher which we call a dry chemical extinguisher, which can be used on class A, B, and C fires. You cannot take away the guesswork of guessing what type of extinguisher is most appropriate for what situation.
So like a all-encompassing general extinguisher.
Yeah, it's like a multi-purpose.
Like a multi-purpose. Yeah, actually, that's a very good item to have.
Yeah, extremely important.
All right, and well, since you mentioned extinguishers, I know like some people might be intimidated because they might see extinguisher somewhere, they might watch it, they might think, I can use that, right? Is it easy to use, or how could somebody use it?
Well, I'll let Cox take this one, right?
Yeah, good night again.
Good night.
Extinguishers are very, very easy, very simple to use. A lot of people take it for granted and look at it as something, well, hands-offish, I should say, and technical, contrary to that fact or that thing of some people. It's very simple to use. What we need to do is to familiarize ourselves with it, because it is very important, as we could see, as we discuss any topic here, it is very important, a very important piece of firefighting equipment. And there goes an acronym that comes with the extinguisher itself,
right?
Being PASS acronym, PASS. Simple terms: pull, meaning that you pull the pin out from the extinguisher head itself. Aim, squeeze, and sweep. Well, we didn't bring an extinguisher tonight to actually demonstrate it. However, there are videos on YouTube. You could actually go on YouTube. I mean, with the advent of internet, you could get really everything what we speak about here tonight on the internet.
Yeah.
One of the myths, or I shouldn't say myths, but one of the misunderstanding that people have about extinguishers is that they don't see the necessity for it in their homes. So you'll go to a lot of homes, big, small, and there wouldn't be any extinguisher present. Because apparently a lot of people take it for granted that that is really only for commercial and industrial settings. However, we implore people to actually get or make a small investment in an extinguisher for your property, because let's face it, we have to save ourselves first, lives, and by extension our properties. And an extinguisher could be of so much help, especially in the incipient stages of a fire. Now, you don't want to go into a room where, let's say, for example, you're sleeping and, well, you got the alarm that there's a fire in your room or within your household, and you enter the room only to see the room is fully engulfed. You can't go there without extinguisher. It is not advisable. All right? Extinguisher is really supposed to be employed only in the incipient stages, like you see the fire is small or isolated in a corner. Then you could use an extinguisher. However, for the engulfed flame, no, it is not advisable. So there are certain steps also that you should take in the event that you see a fire in your household. And I know that will be coming up. Well, as we go along, we will tackle those questions, all right? But yes, an extinguisher is very, very easy to use.
Nice. And I like a term you mentioned just now, for people to make an investment, you know, so, but it's not just in the property, to save in the property, in the lives of the families and themselves also, make an investment, right? Because people, because you're rightfully and really and truly, you're right, where there is people don't think, you know, they take it for granted. And the majority, I think, or the most times, what we tend to do is instead of an extinguisher, we get fire insurance for the house. Right? But you just only collect the insurance when the house burned down, right?
Correct. And hopefully no injuries or fatalities, God forbid.
Exactly. Exactly. Right. Now I know, like, the extinguisher, if someone has an extinguisher, it comes just like any other piece of equipment that you have. Like if you have a power washer for your yard, a waka, them kind of thing, is a piece of equipment that you need to maintain also. Do these things need to be maintained? How often? Who does do it? If you could do it yourself, you know?
Right. So, all right. It is an equipment, as you rightly said, that needs to be maintained, even more so that when it's not in use, right? Because, let's face it, you wouldn't need to use an extinguisher as often as your pressure washer or your iron, right?
Well, if you have to do something wrong.
Well, exactly. And you need to check wherever is the source of the fire itself. All right, so yes, it is a piece of equipment that needs to be maintained. It needs to be checked first to begin with regularly. And having an extinguisher, not just in your home, but in any business space or any establishment, be it residential, commercial, or industrial, it needs to be checked. So let me go back to the home setting, the domestic setting. So you have an extinguisher in your home, and yes, you're seeing it every day, basically, because it's something that you will get familiar, your eyes being on it. But you'll be passing it up and down, up and down, up and down. So it is a good practice to get the family involved. So let's say you have a household with 4 occupants, mom, father, and 2 kids. Get the kids involved. Bring the extinguisher, especially, let's say you now make the investment in putting extinguishers in your home. Bring the extinguisher to the table. Familiarize yourself with the use of the extinguisher. And by extension, depending on the ages of the children, get them involved as well. And thereafter, you could delegate duties to, well, the household, the wife, the husband especially, being the adults, every month or so. It could be every time you pass. Well, not every time you pass, but let's be practical. Every month, try iron on the extinguisher. Examine the extinguisher, because it is something that is susceptible to damage. It is something that is susceptible to well, not so much wear and tear, but as anything else, over time it deteriorates. All right? So, Mr. Lewis brought the extinguisher type up just a while, the multi-purpose extinguisher. Now, this is one that is more recommended for domestic use. All right? The ABC extinguisher, there is a gauge on that extinguisher, that particular extinguisher. And that reads charged or needs to be recharged. There's a green zone, there's a red zone on either side. The green zone is in the center. A lot of people take it for granted, even in industrial settings. People don't check these things. And over time, because the extinguisher is charged, it's charged with the extinguishing agent at a certain pressure. And we all know pressure in our tires and in other places over time decreases. Likewise with our extinguisher. So it is a good practice that you check your extinguisher gauge, especially in the ABC extinguishers. Check the gauge ever so often. I say a month, but it could be even more. Don't let it pass a month. It's not advisable that it passes a month, because a lot could happen within a month. So check the gauge on your extinguisher, and if you see that it needs recharging, there are agencies that fill these extinguishers with the extinguishing media, or even pressurize it and bring it up to the charge point. So you have companies like RFS, that is on Royal Road, San Fernando. You have Safe Tech. There are a lot of companies, you could go Google it. There are a lot of companies that do these recharging of these extinguishers and whatever extinguishing media you have. All right? So what we're trying to do is to let people come to terms with the extinguisher and get familiar with an extinguisher in their domestic settings. It's a very good thing to do. And I mean, we don't like to see what happened 2-3 weeks ago with our family up in Maraval. And we don't want where, all right, this is the height of it because it just happened. And by next 2-3 months, everybody forget and they go back to the business all willy-nilly. No. Get familiar with these firefighting equipment, or this particular firefighting equipment. Get familiar with the use of it and get familiar and pass it on. Just pass it on, because it is a very important piece of it. Okay?
Yes, true, very true. Right, that's something that people take for granted a lot.
Yes.
I think you could just throw some water with a hose and is it?
Yeah.
Right. Right. And even okay, and coming back to this, even the situation in Maraval too, I know a big contributor to that was they couldn't escape in time from the household, from the home. Right. Now I know a lot of people, well, if given the option, they will choose security over safety, given the times that we're in right now.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, exactly. So how could that be balanced? How could somebody balance the security of their home, right, while at the same time being safe within their home?
Yeah, I'll take this one. Yeah. So yeah, with the current crime situation, we definitely have a need for to beef up the security in the home, but at the same time, we don't want to be creating our own death trap, right? This would not be the first situation whereby persons would have been trapped in a home and could not escape due to things like burglar proofing and the doors locked and that type of thing. So there are various measures we could do to balance the security and safety. Right? It all starts with the number of exits that we have, right? To and from our homes. So a lot of persons, we believe that one way in and one way out is the best thing to have, because if somebody had to come in here, this is the only part that could come. Right? What we urge persons to do is for every home, try and have at least 2 exits. Right? Now, even when you watch the way the houses were constructed long time, you have 2 exits, but the 2 on the same side of the house. You have the living room and the kitchen side by side, and the 2 doors there. So if you have a fire in the living room or the kitchen, everybody trapped inside. Right? So even when you're from the design stage of your home, even though you're creating it, you want more than 1 exit. And then if you have 2 exits, you kind of want them separated by some type of safe distance. So if one become compromised, the 2 don't become compromised. So we have our 2 exits now. Now we need to secure our doors, we secure our windows and these type of stuff. So even though you might have a need to put on your security door and your burglar proofing, 2 important things could be done to balance that security with safety. The first thing is your keys. Now, a lot of people have the front door key or the back door key on a bunch of keys, right? What we tell persons to do is these critical doors, these critical keys to these doors, have them separated by themselves, ideally with some type of tag and close to the door itself. Because in a fire situation, the keys on top of the fridge, you don't want to be running by the fridge, bacchanal happening, smoke, flames, baby crying. You're not thinking about the keys on top of the refrigerator. You're running by the door, the fire spread and you become trapped by the door. Right? So if you have the keys readily available by the door, of course, if you have a window too close to the door, you won't wait for the bandit to check the hand through the window and take the keys. Right? You have to assess your home and know where is the safest close location to the exit and leave it by itself. Right? Not on a bunch of keys, as close to your exit as possible. For persons who don't have the risk of little kids actually waking up in the night and interfering with the keys, you might as well just leave it in the door itself, if there is an option. Right? So if we hope it don't happen, but if a fire does occur, the key is already readily available in the door, is just to turn and get up. Another thing we could do is the technology around a long time now is have what we call fire escape windows. And what they are like the burglar proofing, but they have a built-in escape hatch per se. So in case of emergency, some of them come with locks, some of them come with ways to unlock without locks. But when a fire emergency, even if you was to run to a window, it has this escape hatch that you can actually unlock, open, and escape the property if your main escapes become compromised. Right? Again, just like with the doors, if your fire escape uses a key, the key for the fire escape needs to be somewhere close by, but not too close, again, for the bandit to chop the hand and take it and open the window and enter. Right? So that is the way they can balance it. Keep your keys close to your door. The critical keys, keep them to themselves on a tag and install fire escapes.
Nice.
One more, one more thing I would add to the fire escapes is that ideally you have one in each room.
Yeah, I was actually not going to ask that, right? Because as Mr. Lewis, as you mentioned, the old-time houses, right? Let's let the exits and the entrances close together. So someone may not be able to get to those things because they're blocked off. So let's say somebody was trapped in a bedroom or some room, right? How can they get out? Or what can they do if there's a fire and they can't get to the exits? Yeah.
Right. So hopefully you have a fire escape, right? Hopefully you have a fire escape, but we know the probability that the majority of us don't have a fire escape. So what you need to do is try and improve your chances of survival until the fire service arrives or until somebody can actually rescue you, right? So you're kind of extending your time of survival. So one of the first things you want to do, let me say, let me use the room as a scenario. We come in a room, right? The fire is outside the room, you are inside the room. One of the first things you want to do is to close that door, right? By closing that door, in order for the fire to reach you, probably unless it goes through the ceiling and come down, it will actually need to burn through that door before the fire reaches you. And let me say, that wood might take probably a good 20 minutes, half an hour to burn out, right? If it's good, long time wood, right? So you're really extending your time. Another thing you can do Now we know in fires, most times the smoke kills you before the actual fire itself. So what you can do after you close the door, you get like some pieces of clothing, or if you have towels or anything like that, and you put it to the bottom of the door and seal off the bottom of the door, whereby smoke would not be able to enter the room, right? So you're also extending your time a little bit here. You need to get yourself as close to a window as possible and make persons aware of your location, right? You want to shout, let them know, hey, I'm here, help, these type of things. But I know it's easier said than done, because only when you're in it and you see the fire, I will tell people try and remain calm, but you try and remain as calm as possible, because you really don't want to exert yourself and use up the valuable oxygen that you would need probably for later on. And if, God forbid, the smoke and the fire enters the room, you need to get as low to the ground as possible, because the smoke and the flames would initially be high up to the ceiling, because heat and flames will go up and then work its way back down. So you need to get as low to the ground as possible, and probably get some type of rag or something and cover your nose and your mouth and try and extend your time as much as possible. And worst case scenario is I might laugh at it. Yeah, have a sledgehammer in a room, you know? Worst case, bang yourself out if it comes to that, because ultimately be looking to survive.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned sledgehammers too. So no, I've noticed now some of the newer houses, because if you go building houses now, that they love security doors. These big heavy doors on them, right? Back door, front door. I even see some of the new houses with every room in the house have a security door. Now, is this a good thing, or could it be a bad thing?
From a security and safety standpoint?
Well, even if I know from the safety standpoint, the security doors, okay, yeah, they're good.
Yeah.
But for a safety standpoint,
yeah, it could have a good and a bad thing depending on the design. For example, let me say the security doors where it come with a limited amount of keys, the normal front doors. These type of doors are normal, open like with a normal key. And even if you was to leave a key in your door, it's difficult for somebody to actually chuck a key from the outside and open your lock for the inside. So give you the extra security. The only thing that is in a safety standpoint, when in terms to evacuate, it becomes a little more difficult to come out. And even if you need to be rescued, Cox will probably attest to this, it is extremely difficult for the fire officers to actually force open these doors, because remember, these are steel reinforced doors with multiple locks. So from a point of being able to be rescued, I see it as something negative.
Yeah, because I know personally from a medical standpoint, right, we have some difficulty getting to some patients because of those kind of doors already.
Yeah.
It does pose a challenge. However, well, most, as you rightfully said initially, most people trump security over safety without even thinking about the safety aspect of it. However, we can't tell people to desist from using those doors. I mean, at the end of the day, it's all your choice. However, it will be a little challenging for us to gain entry, of course, as you might have well seen in Marvel via the videos. However, there are other ways and techniques that we can gain entry as well. I mean, it's a somewhat ticklish situation when it comes to the customer, the owner is desirous of getting a E-class security door. So, you know, it's something that we basically have to live with. However, as we indicated earlier on with the burglar-proofing fire escape hatches, that by itself could help us circumvent us going through or trying to fight through the security door. All right? To get yourself out, probably could even help us get in and all too, or gain access when that time arrives.
Yeah. No, a lot of persons. I get some questions here also. Some persons asking, okay, if they're interested in buying a fire extinguisher, where they could get that?
All right. So there are many places. All right. So they have PriceSmart. Everybody more familiar with PriceSmart. PriceSmart has some fire extinguishers available right now. One for the domestic setting. The same ABC type extinguishers, PriceSmart. You have, I think, places like Allied. There are extinguishers available. Out there. Certain hardwares and all have extinguishers. If you want the more specialty or high brand extinguishers, then you go to the extinguisher agent itself, which is like Regional Fire Safety. There is RFS, we spoke about earlier on. Safe Tech and these places. But to the average homeowner, you can get them extinguishers anyway, ABC extinguishers, that is. And in certain cases, certain places, you might have even CO2 extinguishers, carbon dioxide extinguishers. But we don't reach into that right now. We're dealing more on the domestic front. So the ABC extinguishers are already available at, well, as a company, PriceSmart, Applied, Industrial. Everywhere.
So it really, you could get it anyway. Right now, you can find like war right now.
And we provide extinguishers as well. Like so, term that is, we provide extinguishers as well. Well, a little better brand than some of the other places. A more reputable brand than some places might have. But yeah, extinguishers are available.
Nice. And these are the ones that the one that you all provide. They're equipped for everything. So like I know some of the extinguishers you might see a little tag that somebody check them and stuff like that. You get all that.
Yes. The service tags. Yeah. Well, to be quite honest, when tags are related, the tags more or less comes into play from a commercial than industrial setting.
Okay.
Reason being, no, not to say that you can't use it in your home. No, the tags basically is it's basically to say a record of the maintenance of the extinguisher itself. Right? So hence the reason why it is more employed in commercial and industrial settings, because in those settings you have HSE personnel that deals directly with these things. So they must account that, hey, this month I checked the extinguisher. It was checked for the last 3-4 months. It needs servicing. So that is why that service tag is there. But in a domestic setting, it's not really necessary. All right? Okay. What you could do in a domestic setting is that you can have a logbook, a normal scrapbook. You just jot it down, well, yeah. You will check the extinguisher today, next month or next 2-3 weeks. I check the extinguisher and just, have it on your personal record. Yeah.
All right. What about families? Okay, no. We talking that before we talking about the ideal situation where everybody is capable in the household, right? What about families where we have persons with elderly persons or persons with disabilities or some kind of mobility issues, special needs and stuff like that? What would you recommend that families do in these cases with regards to safety? Even like what they could do to increase the chances of escaping with these persons and stuff from the house?
Okay, good. So as you rightfully state, we really take these elderly persons and these persons with disabilities for granted. And by extension, I want to actually throw the little children into there, right? Little ones, right? Because a lot of time when a fire starts, we assume that somebody would have attended to this person or assisted this person. It's only when it's too late and everybody out and you're asking, but where nanny and where this one and where the other, and then we realize that they're missing. So it will actually start from your planning stage, right? So generally as a family, what you can do to increase your chances, you need to have a plan, right? We'll discuss the plan as we go along. But specific to the elderly, what you want to do in this plan, you want to ensure that you assign somebody. You give an individual that task, whether it's daddy, it's mommy. Your task is in an emergency, you need to attend to this particular person. I need to make them accountable for that person. Whereby when an emergency happens, you don't want to be guessing who would have attended to that person, right? Also, you want to ensure that, let me say the person uses a wheelchair or something like that. You want to ensure they have the proper facilities in your home to actually assist this person. So something as simple as ramps, installing ramps in your home instead of stairs would make it 10 times easier when fire blazing for you fighting up with a wheelchair, trying to get somebody down a flight of stairs, right? So you could actually construct ramps and things around your home. When you develop your plan, you could actually practice. We might say your nephew responsible for granny, and then when we run the practice, we realize nephew like he a little too weak. So you might have to tweak the plan a little bit and assign somebody else to assign granny. You might need 2 persons to assign granny and that type of things, right? And extra critical for these persons is something we didn't talk about as yet, is fire alarms, right? Yeah. Because one of the critical things to allowing these persons to escape is detecting the fire as early as possible. So we don't want to chance it whereby everybody is asleep, nobody know what's going on, fire start, and by the time we realize every man for themselves, right? So when we have fire detectors in our home, this would make us have an alert of a fire very early. A lot of tests show that within 30 seconds, the alarm should go off and make you aware of fire. And this would actually extend the escape time that this elderly or disabled or little child may need to actually escape the home in a timely manner.
I'm glad you mentioned the fire alarm thing, because that was actually coming to my next question about okay, even if we have these elderly persons, sometimes, okay, like nowadays children online from school, well, school out now, but when they're back in school, you might have granny, you might have grandpa, somebody attended to the child while mommy and daddy in work, right? So they might be in a room somewhere in the school, all right? What could we have in the home to alert people or to alert the families? Okay, something is happening. Is it just an alarm, or can we have other stuff?
Right. So I feel I preempt your question. Right. So yes, definitely you would have. I would say it starts with the smoke alarms or the heat alarms, right? Before you would have I'm saying fire alarms. Like all kind of different types. But generally in the home we'll have either smoke alarms, which will be for most rooms in the house, and heat alarms in the kitchen itself. So in the kitchen, the reason why we want to have a heat alarm, because we know when we chunk and we pot and you generate all this smoke and that type of stuff, the smoke alarm will keep on going off. It will become a nuisance. And when the alarm does go off in an emergency, we'll be assuming that somebody chunky in a pot, right? And we might take it for granted. So in order to not make people be sensitized to that alarm, we tend to recommend the heat alarm for the kitchen itself, right? But for the rest of the home, you more look at the smoke alarm, because it actually will detect a fire much faster than a heat alarm.
Exactly. Because with the smoke alarm in the kitchen, you might tend to take out the battery, because I know people who do that.
Sure.
Not only, it's a common thing. It is a common thing. Now, it have the more expensive smoke alarms whereby they come with a silence button. So when you're chunking and a thing, you can press a button and it just silence the detector for a period of time. But let me move away from that. We just don't want to install the smoke alarm in the kitchen at all. So yes, you will have the smoke alarm, but again, when we come back to your plan, even though the smoke alarm goes off, you as an individual still need to make persons alert that, hey, is a fire situation. Because even though the alarms might be relatively loud, again, they're supposed to be in school, but they might be on YouTube, the music high up, them in here and the alarm going up, so you'll still need somebody to probably go sound alarm, because it's a loud vocal alarm, fire, 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 go you check all the rooms, make sure you know it have nobody, and alert everybody else throughout the house that it have a fire situation, right? The smoke alarm to me is a cheap investment for your life and your property, right? It's relatively cheap. It works with a 9-volt battery, right? And we're not talking about the commercial type alarm, the high-tech alarm system. We're talking about these individual units that work with a 9-volt battery, right? You can stick it up with double-sided tape, or you can secure it to your ceiling with a hand drill. So it's easy installation, right? You don't need to break down no ceiling. You don't need to bust no wall. You just need to put in a 9-volt battery. And after you put in the battery and you install it, ever so often you'll see it flashing like a red light. That kind of let you know that it's still functioning. Yeah. And when the battery starts to run down, you'll be hearing like a little chirp, 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 chirp. That lets you know that the battery is actually going dead and you need to actually change the battery. Right? And there's also a test button that you should, every month, you press it, it will give up a loud chirp, chirp to let you know that the alarm is functioning. So cheap investment, easy to use.
Right, and this is something that beside along with fire extinguisher, is this something that you will provide also?
Yes, definitely. Again, extinguishers and detectors, two critical things for the home. So as persons who do consultation and this type of thing, it's imperative that we have those things, because everything starts there.
Nice. Okay. We spoke about fire extinguishers. We spoke about the escape hatches and stuff like that, the burglar proof, the alarms. Now, this might sound to some persons may think, okay, they're not going to get us because they're not able to use it. Would you recommend, or is there some kind of training for the families, where families and people can actually train or get certified or some kind of thing to use these kind of things?
Yeah, of course. I'll recommend definitely some type of, at a bare minimum, awareness training. Critically, like in fire prevention, evacuation procedures, use of fire extinguishers, because these will be the three critical areas you need for the home. Because we have training in fire prevention, we'll be able to act safely. We wouldn't act inappropriately and do things that could cause fires. We'll be able to identify situations that could lead to a fire, because the goal is actually to prevent fires from happening, right? We don't even want to reach to the smoke alarms and the extinguishers, right? So once you have that training, that education, you will be better equipped to actually prevent these fires from happening. If you have training in evacuation procedures, then you and your family can actually sit down, develop a plan, put a plan in place, which is proven to extend or improve your chances of escape. When you have a plan, when a fire takes place, everybody know what to do, right? Who is responsible for making the call to the fire service? Who, if the fire is small, is responsible for using the fire extinguisher? Who is responsible for moving out granny? Who is responsible for doing so forth and so forth? So when you do the training, you'll be exposed to what needs to be done so you can develop your plan now. And of course, we mentioned earlier that the fire extinguisher is something easy to use. It's not rocket science. But we recommend that only persons who trained to use it should use it. And we use the word training loosely because in a domestic setting, you don't necessarily need to be, let me say, certified, right? You don't need no accredited certification. You just really need to receive the training and demonstrate that if a small fire occurs, which the extinguisher designed to be used in, that you could actually use the extinguisher, right? So I would definitely recommend for everybody, right? Every household that receives some type of training in those 3 areas.
Yeah, know what to do in this situation.
Yeah, exactly what to do.
Yeah. And then, well, my last question actually is that, okay, we're focusing on fires that start inside the home, right?
Yeah.
Now, we're in the rainy season now, right? No, there's some coming in the dry season, right? And you know, we have a lot of bushfires, and then I don't know, for some reason, that is when we tend to light fires outside too. We rake up all the grass and we just burn it in the yard already. Right?
Yeah.
And I know fire services have one set of work during that time. You just see them all over the place, spraying down bush. Right? Huh?
No, I see
Busiest
busiest time of the year.
Yeah, busiest time of the year, for sure. Right? So are there any tips for persons, okay, if you need for burning rubbish on the outside or lighting fires outside, and how you could prevent these things from affecting the home?
All right. Well, good question. So first to begin with, yes, a lot of us do home cleaning. Well, the yard cleaning, and we want to light fires, rightfully. So we cut a tree, we cut up the yard, we bottle up everything in a heap, and we want to light it. Right, so there's a procedure for doing this. The procedure is obtaining a fire permit, right? So let me start from scratch. You're cleaning up your yard. You want to burn the rubbish, basically. And when I say rubbish, I don't mean the plastics. I don't mean the tires. No. We're burning the trees, the grass, because we have to think about the climate or the environment as well, right? So we refrain from giving people permission to burn plastics and rubbers especially, right? So you clean up your yard, you want to burn. What you have to do, you have to go to the station, closest fire station in your area, and request a permit. When you make your request, there's a person appointed, which is a fire guardian. The fire guardian then comes to your residence and makes an assessment of the area and then advises you how to burn, well, your rubbish. Right? There is one big heap. If you have enough space to make one big heap, if you have enough space, or if you don't have enough space, you have to put it in 2 heaps or whatnot. Right? So the cost is minimal, it's $10 to obtain a fire permit. And when he does make the assessment, he gives you the permission to light the fire. Right? Because you have the permit within your on you. You obtain the permit. Right? So what you have to do, but one thing we have to be mindful of is that the bushfire season starts officially from December the 1st to June the 30th. Right? Now, a lot of people would be the assumption that it starts somewhere in January or February.
Yeah.
Bushfire season starts from June the 1st, December the 1st to June the 30th. So within that time frame, that is when you need to obtain a fire permit. It's a simple process. A lot of people have been using it for umpteens of years. It's the most advisable way of burning your fire. On the flip side, a lot of us want to burn the fire and thinking that we have it under control. Right? Me going in the fire station, me bound to go in fire station for that little small thing. And again, a lot of us take it for granted. So we put one big heap, light the fire, we use the petroleum, petrol, the diesel, or whatever, to get the fire going real nice. And we turn on our backs, or sometimes we even turn on our backs to monitor the fire. But guess what? It's so big. The fire gets so big and so volatile that it starts to present a hazard now to the environment. When I say a hazard to the environment, it can easily fire spread, embers, which is the little sparks you might be seeing coming from the top of the flame, goes elsewhere, travels with the wind, goes elsewhere, and then boom, you have a next fire somewhere down the road. And that is what causes the mass fires in the bushfire season all over the place. A lot of people take it for granted, say they're going to be in their own thing and be. And next thing you get EY, that is when fire service don't want to be running down these fires all over the place from forest being to serious. And so it's not that we do what it will, but it could be avoided, because in so doing, it could damage a lot of agricultural properties, damage goods. The man didn't start no fire, but the fire was started by the neighbor 3-4 houses of the road. And it was have a burn down or vegetation burned down to the ground. And who is going to compensate him for that? Although it wasn't his fault. So there's a charge that is also associated with the unpermitted use of unpermitted fire burning. That carries a penalty at $20,000 and or 6 months in prison. So this is certain things that people must be aware of, mindful of, because we see it all the time, and we try to tell people, advise them, just come to the station. We won't stop you from burning, but just come and let us assess it. Assess the environment, assess the area, assess the sizes, and you will more than likely get permission to burn.
Right. So $10 could save you 20,000 or 6 months in jail.
Exactly. Like $5 could save you $1,000 right now. The mass.
Yeah, understand?
Yeah.
Right. So,
I just want to say something very quickly too. And that for the general information of the audience, that we really take the outer burning of rubbish and fires for granted. But these things don't really make the news, but a lot of persons have lost their homes due to these outer burnings of fires. It's not something reported regularly on the thing, but it happens way more often than we think. Right? So I want to admonish you to really take the tips. Get your permit in the bushfire season. Outside of the bushfire season, you can't get your 20,000 for 6 months in jail. You can still burn down somebody's house. You can still burn down somebody's crops, right? So again, even though you're lighting your fires, that are the normal safety protocols, keep around it clear. You don't leave it unattended. If you have a water extinguisher or a hose or buckets of water nearby, and you don't burn when it has gusty winds, and all these little simple tips is things we could follow out of the bushfire season to preserve possibly your or your neighbor house and somebody agriculture.
And how can, I know the persons listening outside there and on the live on Facebook, and so how can, if people want to get more information about the fire extinguishers, the alarms and stuff, even the little safety training and everything, how can they get in contact with you all? Could they find you all on social media, anything like that?
At the moment, we don't have the only social media presence we have is via our WhatsApp business account. Right? Our number is 725-6782. I'll repeat again for your benefit. 725-6782. Or you can email us at Exotherm Fire Safety, XOTHERM Fire Safety @gmail.com.
Gmail. Where you are located?
In the Princess Town area.
What? Right into man.
Yeah, we close.
Neighbors.
I ain't Grandi, so but don't worry, Princess Town.
That's right.
All right, close enough.
Close enough. All right, well, Mr. Lewis, Mr. Cox, I want to thank you all so much for your time and your expertise. I know a lot of persons are going to benefit because there are a lot of things that I learned too. right? I do firefighting a long time in basic classes. Right,
Yeah.
they refresh a lot of things that updated. Cause I didn't even know about the heat sensor. I only thought it only had smoke alarm. Right? So I want to thank you all so much for your time. Right, answering the questions for us, the expertise and the information that you passed on, and I know they're going to benefit a lot of people. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
We appreciate the thing to at least get some of the information out. And, you know, well, we appreciate the time. So thanks for having us again. And
Most welcome.
Okay then.
Okay, assalamu alaikum and good evening. Fazad, Jazakallah for hosting the program on our behalf, inshallah. Whatever knowledge is taught, you know, we should always have the intention to put it into practice. It might be beneficial for all of us, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Good night to all.
Night.
Good night.